Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Well, my show that is all about sharing inspirational, uplifting, and educational content. So, one of the biggest things right now that we're all worried about, and we're always worried about, is money, right? How do you make it? How do you keep it? And so I have today my special guest who is a money mentor. Let's bring her in. That's Katy Chen Mazzara. I love that title, by the way, money mentor. That's a good name. So Katy is a certified financial coach and graduate of UC Berkeley's personal financial planning program. As a former journalist, TV producer, and award-winning documentary filmmaker, Katy understands the balance between dreaming and doing. She helps creative types and those with inconsistent incomes make more money, pay off debts, and achieve financial freedom so they can create the life they truly want to live. Welcome, Katy. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited.
Before we get into the money, and we will definitely get to how to make money and how to keep it, let's talk a little bit about your story because we have very similar backgrounds. We both started in television. We actually worked together very briefly at Access Hollywood, and then you went off to work and do some other things. One of the things you did was you were a producer on The Bachelor.
Yes.
And so here you are now teaching people how to have a growth mindset. Where's the switch? How did you switch from being a producer to doing what you do now?
So two things. One, when I was a TV producer, obviously we were mostly freelance. When we were at Access Hollywood, we weren't. We were on staff, but most of my jobs, especially like on Bachelor and other types of shows, I was a freelance producer. So I really had to learn how to manage my money well, because after the first show, I was like, oh, the first show ended. I was like, what am I going to do now? Do I immediately try to find another show to work on? Or do I have some downtime? How do I manage that time and how do I manage my money? And so I started reading all of these books and getting really into it. Like I became such a passion of mine that like I jokingly say that I even like reading stock prospectuses, which actually a lot of wealth managers are like, I don't even like to read stock prospectuses. And so, and then the second part is a more personal story, is that I grew up knowing 3 women in my life that stayed in abusive relationships because of money. And so I always felt like there was a purpose in that I really want to empower people to make decisions not based off of money. So if you can actually manage your money well in a way that then you can actually make decisions from your heart, from your core values, rather than making those decisions based purely on how much money do I have in the bank and whether or not I can pay my bills for this next month.
Yeah. So you also take a very different approach, which is why I loved when we connected, because it speaks to what I do for a living, which is I'm a channel, I'm a medium, I'm an author, I've channeled 4 books. And I was reading some of the stuff that you're doing, and you had this one thing, and it said what my books say, which is money is energy. That's it.
100%.
Everything is energy. And all you have to do to create energy is move the energy. So where did your approach to keeping money actually come from?
So it was a combination of things. I mean, I did sort of the traditional route, which is, went back to school, went to UC Berkeley and studied personal financial planning. So I have a basis of knowledge for taxes and investing and retirement and estate planning and all of the things that a normal financial planner, wealth advisor would have. And then I started to branch out into learning. I got a life coaching certification. I got the financial coaching certification. So really understanding that aspect. However, then I also have a more spiritual basis. I grew up going to church. However, I'm not like super religious in terms of like which kind of church I belong to. However, I have this basis of understanding that one, the God, the universe, whatever you believe in, will provide for you. right? And no matter what. And then the second is that ask and you shall receive, right? The law of attraction is in the Bible too, you know, because it's like, and the other part about it is, you know, what I truly believe and what I told so many creative types especially is that, you know, we all have a God-given gift. You know, there is a talent, there is something that we have that God's given us. And the more that we can shine that talent in the world, then the more that it glorifies God and, you know, whatever you really believe in, that bigger, that higher power. And it's so important for us to discover it and to know it and to really unleash it, you know, and show people that, you know, this is our gift in the world. And, you know, here's how I can do certain things in terms of like what my gift is. And I do it in a way that is just me. Right.
I was channeling today, and what I was channeling was about how we're all here in service to the whole, and so each and every one of us has a service that we are performing, and everyone's is unique. Even though there is this unity that we all come from, we all have a unique purpose that we're serving. And so when you are in service and you can serve through love, then you are serving the whole of humanity. So I love that. And then you said another word, and that goes back to the quote I wanted to share with you, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Something that I channeled, I think last week, and it's my favorite quote ever, and it is, "You don't make money, you discover its ability to arrive."
Oh, I love that.
I just thought it was so beautiful. So can you speak to that as a money mentor and what that really truly means?
Yes. So for me, a lot of times, like what people think, you know, in terms of money, I've got to work hard to get money. I've got to do certain things to actually make money. When in reality, that is the opposite of what you should be doing. Because the more that you're worrying about it, thinking about it, working hard for it, the more resistance there is to actually receiving it. Money is that energy, and it comes faster if you actually are in flow. Right. And then what is that? What does in flow mean? It really means that when you're doing something that is so like it takes away time, right? Like you're in doing that thing and then all of a sudden you lose track of time and you've been doing that thing for 8 hours and you don't even realize like you've been doing it, right? That's flow. And so when you're able to create that in your daily life, in your creative life, in whatever, you know, you're working on, that's when money can actually come to you. And I've done this experiment so many times with different people where you don't even have to be actively working on something, right? And doing stuff, and yet abundance will be coming towards you.
We believe, because we've been taught through our society, through the collective voice, that in order to have money, we must make it. We must go out and hustle and grind. And so most people sit around and sit at their desk. Well, how can I do this? And what should I do? What should I do? It's like, and that's the energy that they are putting out. So I've been trying to tell people that for a very long time. And most people don't believe me because it doesn't make any sense that if we do very little, that a lot can come. So how do you get people over that sort of belief system?
Well, one thing is I always tell people, like, you know, what you focus on really comes back to you, right? And what you're focusing your intention on, that's what grows and gets bigger and bigger. So if you're always focusing your intention on something negative, right? And the negative things, the things that you don't have, the lack you have in your life, then that's what's going to get bigger and bigger, rather than the things that you do have. So one, of course, is to be in gratitude, as we've all heard. But the second thing is to really just pay attention, right? Like spend a week paying attention to what is coming into your life, what abundance, right? Like even if it's the smallest thing. I said, you know, of course, before the pandemic, you know, you're driving around and you, especially here in LA, it's hard to find parking spots. All of a sudden you pull up to a parking spot and there's already 2 hours on the meter. That's abundance. So pay attention to it, write it down, make a note of it in your, in a little notebook or in the notes section of your phone, anything like that. And the next time, right, you go to lunch with a friend and your friend says, oh, you know what, for that thing that you did the other day, I'm going to actually buy you lunch today. Great. More abundance, right? And you're paying attention to it and you write it down.
But wait, here's what happens though with that. The minute that somebody says, oh, let me get it, I'm going to pay for it, what do most people do?
Oh, no. Don't, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Of course. Yes, right? Yes.
So then what does that then do to their money mindset when they do that?
Oh, it's rejecting it. You're rejecting money. You're blocking that energy of money because you're basically saying, I'm not good at receiving, right? I can't receive that money. I would rather be the person to give you money to help you out rather than to receive that money and to just be very grateful for it in my heart and say thank you.
Absolutely. Because, and then it goes back to like, you feel guilty, right? We feel guilty that somebody is paying for us. Like we should be giving rather than just receiving it and saying, thank you, I'm so grateful. And I think that is a big stopping point for people making money, is the guilt factor of I can't take. Well, it's a give and take, correct?
Absolutely. It's a give and take, and it's because it's a form of energy. So because it's a form of energy, you have to have the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, so it is important to give. That's why I say also, if you take all your money and you just hide it away and you hold on to it too tightly, it actually it does the same thing as not being able to receive, right? It actually blocks you from receiving even more money because you're basically sending a message out to the universe that like, don't give me any more money because I don't even know what to do with the money I have.
Yeah. Okay. That brings up so many different things though. And I'm sure you get these questions and resistance in the events that you go to and where you teach, is that the minute that you say that, people who are struggling with their financial, who are running out of money, who've only got, $1,000 left in the bank account, what are the questions that come to you?
Well, yes, this happens all the time. I even have worked with clients, and I'm also a mentor at a program called Imagine LA, which is, to help homeless people, formerly homeless people, to not go back into homelessness. So what I say is this, although, yes, money is a form of energy and it is, something to be able to receive in flow, right? However, when you don't have money, it's not the thing to do where you're putting up vision boards and just hoping that money's going to come to you too, because money is also of this earth, right? Like we can't take that away with us when we pass or go to the other side, right? Instead, it's something that us as humans have actually made up and and has created and placed a value on, right?
Yes.
That's
and we've decided its value.
Exactly. And so instead, so now there are some forms of action that you have to take. And one thing is to have clarity, right? To have clarity about what is coming in, what is going out, and to know what do you want? What do you want, and how do you want to live with your money, and how do you want to feel around money, right? And those are the important things to ask so that you can actually take action to move forward with your finances. And then the second part is like, we all learned about money from our parents, whether they taught it to us consciously or unconsciously. And so it's important to kind of go back into childhood and see if those same beliefs resonate today.
Yeah.
And if they don't, release them, right? It's not about blaming our parents because they all did the best job they can possibly do with the circumstances and the things that they've learned. However, it's now time as an adult to say, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for my own actions. And then also just turn your beliefs into, okay, is this really true? Is this true for me now? Is this still my truth, right?
Yeah.
And I think so many of us get stuck in a certain belief because that's just how things were done when we were kids. Or you just absorb certain things, right? You absorb parents fighting over money, or you absorbed, your dad working really hard, coming home really late at night, and then you getting into your mind, like, either I have to work really hard in order to make money, or two, oh, I don't ever want to work that hard to make money, so I don't even want money.
Yeah. Yes. You said something so brilliant. I have been thinking about this all week long, and that is money is just paper. Money, like they say, money doesn't grow on trees. Actually, it does. It comes from a tree. It's just paper. And this is the biggest problem in the entire world, is that we have given value to this paper and made it so some people have it and some people don't. So because I channel when I write, I've actually thought of those questions, like, well, could we get rid of the money system? Like, what would happen if we just got rid of this paper system, or if we just printed enough paper so that everybody could actually have the minimum type of life, so nobody was hungry? And the truth is, in spiritual truth, that we could do that. We could absolutely do that. There truly is no value to money. Whatever has been placed on it is just the system that has been set up. So as I was thinking that, I felt like, well, that's the mindset too, you have to continue to adopt, which is money is just paper. I can make more paper, right? And so if you think of it that way, it has a much less scary way of thinking about it, right?
Yes. And you get to decide what value you want to put onto that money.
So what are some simple solutions that you can offer of how to let go of fear when it comes to money?
Fear is great. I think fear is great, because fear is basically just a mechanism for you to start to look at what's going on in your life, right? Like I always say too, that money is just your financial life is a reflection of your emotional life. So if you really take a look at what's going on emotionally with yourself, right, then you can and then you can transform a lot of different things within your finances, with your health, with so many different things as well. So it's important that, like I was talking about before, with clarity, right? Because the more unknown something is, the more our minds are going to worry about it and think about it, right? And create the monster in the closet, right? Or the monster underneath our bed. I mean, so many of us as kids, your imagination gets the best of you. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing to do is actually create clarity.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, practically put things down on paper. I don't really believe in budgeting, because budgeting to me feels like, it doesn't just feel like it is scarcity thinking, right? To say to yourself, oh, I only have this much money per month to live on, or I only have this much money for food this month, or this much money for clothes this month. Like, that's just limiting yourself, and then creating that guilt cycle that you were just talking about too.
We have to be more practical with money, even if we are spiritual. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think the belief is 50% of it, right? It might even be 75% of it. However, there does need to be action that needs to be taken, because if it like I said, it's of this earth. Money is something that only we're experiencing as humans on this earth. And so there needs to be some practical steps for you to understand it and to take action on it, in order to bring in more money, to make more money, to create that freedom for yourself that you really want.
So then let's really get into this, the practical steps. What are the practical steps? If you could give people, you tell me steps. I'll say 3 to 5 steps for allowing money into your life. What are they?
The practical steps are, 1, to definitely pay off your debts, right? If you have debts, then none of the money that you're making is all yours, right? So you don't have that true freedom. So you've got to pay down your debts, pay it off, and then you can do with your money whatever you want to do with it. You get to choose, right? And then the second step is to have an emergency savings. So anywhere from 3 months to a year's worth of savings. And that's just going to create that feeling of abundance, that I'm being taken care of, and I always have more. I always have more in the bank. And then the other part about it is,
I think we learned that lesson with what happened with the coronavirus right there.
yes,
The
yeah,
lesson of making sure that you have a safety net should anything ever happen, correct?
exactly, right. Because right now, if you have that emergency savings, then you're good, right? Like, let's say you have 6 months. We haven't gone into the 6th month yet, so you're still feeling like, okay, I'm still in abundance and I'm good. If you have a year's worth of expenses, that's even better, because then you have much more room to run with. However, I don't recommend putting away more than a year's worth of expenses in a savings account, because a savings account only earns you that 1%, 1.5%, maybe 2% at the most. And so you're essentially not taking advantage of like inflation, and you're essentially losing money each month. So just put enough in there that's like going to take care of you, the necessary expenses that are going to take care of you for a certain amount of time, based off of your own risk tolerance. If you're somebody who's very willing to take risks, then go ahead and put 3 months in, right? If you're somebody who doesn't like risk, and you're, pretty risk averse and want some more security, then I would go towards the 8 to 9 months, maybe even a year's worth of expenses saved up. So those are
Okay,
the main
got that.
practical steps.
Okay,
Yeah.
how do you work with clients when a client comes to you and they're struggling with money? How do you work with them?
Well, first we want to get very clear with their values. That's the foundation for everything, because what you value, even what you were just talking about before, right? Like, some people just want that freedom and the lifestyle to just live simply and say, okay, I don't have to worry about money, right? Whereas somebody else might be like, no, I want to be rich.
Yeah.
So what are your values? What is closest to you, and how do you want to, then you can decide how you want to move in this world and where you want to go. Okay. And so then, after we figure out what your core values are, then we start to look at clarity, right? Like, so you can decide what's coming in, what's going out, and what are the priorities, and where do you want to go with your money? Do you want to have a house in 2 years, right? Or do you want to create that education fund for your child, for when they go off to college? Or do you want to travel around the world and just live, a nomadic lifestyle in a few
Yeah.
years, right? Like, whatever that is, let's figure out how to get there. And then, of course, like, we can't talk about money and financial wellness without talking about our own self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that we're looking at that. Like, self-worth to me really does equal net worth. The opposite isn't true, because lots of people who make a lot of money and who don't have that inherent self-worth really end up blowing all their money on drugs or alcohol or anything else that kind of fulfills them, right? It can try to satisfy them in those moments. And so it's so important that you're consistently creating that self-worth for yourself, to build on it, and to improve it. And self-worth isn't being cocky, right? Self-worth isn't like, let me brag about this or that. Instead, self-worth is really a simple, quiet knowing deep down inside of like who you are and what you bring to the table.
Absolutely. And I say that every one of us is an addict. We're addicted to outside things. So whether you are addicted to money, whether you're addicted to drugs, whether you're addicted to alcohol, whether you're addicted to shopping, whether you're addicted to eating, whether you're addicted to relationships, it all comes from lack of that self-love and that self-worth. Because when you do find that, and it's a journey that you go on to get there, you start to realize that none of those addictions that you had matter anymore, because you can be happy from within. And so then that's when the people who are like, oh, I need to have cars and boats and things and all those things, that's those people, when they evolve and go on that journey, that's when they're like, oh, I don't need all those things to be happy. And you and I know lots of people in the entertainment industry that we've met through the years who have all the money in the world, and they're some of the unhappiest people.
Exactly.
And they just keep chasing fame and chasing money and chasing that addiction to outside things. And that's really what it comes down to. So I love that, because that is That is really it. It's the self-love. It's the self-worth. It's such a cliche, the whole self-love, but it really is the truth. Like if that's the number one thing that somebody is saying, that's what I'd be saying to them too. Like you have to figure out your own worth. And what did you say? Your self-worth is your net worth?
Yep. Self-worth is your net worth.
I absolutely love that. Let me ask you a practical question.
Yes.
And that is, especially considering what happened with the pandemic that we went through, should somebody, I'm about mitigating fear. So that's a lot of what I teach now, is to mitigate fear, because when you are in fear, you'll just attract more fear. So if you can do something to mitigate that, even if it doesn't seem like the right step, I tell people to do it. So asking you as a financial planner, if someone is running out of money and they have a college fund or a 401k or an IRA or something that they can tap into in order to mitigate the fear so that they can get back into the flow, would you say that is good or not good?
It's good. It's absolutely good. I've been telling all my clients that right now is the time to create more breathing room in your life. So in order to do that, because we can't live in survival mode, right? When you're in survival mode, that's when you kind of get panicked and, you're doing things like hoarding toilet paper, right? Like that's the reason why people are buying up toilet paper like left and right, and there's no toilet paper left in the stores. And it's because of this fear. And it's like coming from that moment of scarcity and that survival mode that we have. And so in order to get out of survival mode, you want to create breathing room for yourself. And that means, like I say, if you have the ability to put your mortgage on deferment, and they're allowing it without any interest payments, and they're allowing it to be put on the back end versus like actually having to pay it off immediately, I would do that. I would call up your credit card companies. I would call up your car payments and see if you can get a little bit of a break, right? And then in terms of your 401k, your IRAs, or any of those kinds of things, right now, even with a stimulus package, you are allowed to take out some money that you need, and there's no penalty. Normally, there's a 10% penalty for early withdrawals, but for this specific period of time, if you need the money, you can take it out, right? Ideally, if you don't need the money, keep it in there, because you're just you still want to keep doing the things that will help you in the future, for your retirement. And this is a good time to just like allow your money to just keep going and growing in the future, because like from the recession to, in the 10 years from the recession in 2008 to 2018, the stock market went up like 10% each year. So on average. And so it's important to know that we will come out of this, and that you can actually build on that and come out of it even better.
So where can people find you if they want to shift their mindset and work with you one-on-one?
Yeah. So my website is www.katychenmazzara.com. And so you can find all the information you want there. There's also a place to sign up. There's a scheduling link. You can sign up for a 1-hour free consultation with me. And then also I'm on all of the socials as Katy Chen Mazzara as well.
And I noticed on your website you have some resources, some blogs that people can read, just to have great tools and resources to learn about
Absolutely.
Ideas about money. So.
Yes, every week I'm putting out a different blog post around money, and a lot of both practical and spiritual tips as well.
Listen, in my book and books, that is the way that we all should be living. It's the trifecta. It's mind, body, soul. It's living all three together, rather just living one way. And when you can live that way, you're going to have a much more quality life. And thank you so much for being my guest. And again, I'll put up the website if anybody wants to find you, and they can do a consultation. And it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, such a pleasure.
Right. Okay.
This was fun. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.